All right, everybody, welcome in to the Labor Day edition. Very excited to bring you a big-time show today. Going to go ahead and bring in my co-hosts David Cohn and Blaine Crane here. Going to get Brandon Marcello to talk some college football expansion, a little week one review. But where I want to start is the domination that we saw yesterday or Saturday from Georgia and Alabama. Now, my boss has a pretty famous saying, all right, facts don't care about your feelings. And when it comes to college football, that couldn't be more true. Now, most of us want parity. We really want to believe that our team has a chance to win the whole thing. And really, outside of about 4 fan bases right now, that's just a mirage. And after week one of college football, it's pretty easy to see that there are 2 teams that stand out from the rest. They stand out physically, mentally. They stand out because they have the best players that play the most disciplined in all 3 phases. Those 2 teams are Alabama and Georgia. Now, Ohio State and Clemson are the closest 2. We still got to watch Clemson tonight. But those 2 have reached a level where they have a distinct advantage. The speed, the talent, the knowledge, and the will to do whatever it takes for the longest. Now, Bama looks to have one of the best teams Saban has ever had. The offensive line will continue to improve, and the mixture of Young, Gibbs, Holden, and the rest of the Monstars look to be more in sync than Justin Timberlake. Meanwhile, Kirby's building a Bama literally in Athens, Georgia. The absolute soul-crushing of Oregon looks very familiar to what Papa Saban's teams have been doing to brand-name teams and openers since his Crystal Chariot stopped in T-Town. You take one look at the Georgia players getting off the bus, and it literally looks like a WWE promo. Stetson's playing loose because he's already a hero, and OC Todd Monken's finally opened up the offense, going from the Stone Age to the Renaissance in a split second. Now, we always say on the show that in order to win the big one, to stay on top in college football, you have to have the 3 pillars: recruiting, development, and culture. Without having the top talent, you can't make it. Not developing the talent wastes it. And without a strong locker room culture, there's no way to maintain it. Alabama's been doing those 3 things beautifully for a long while now. Kirby took the blueprint from Saban and 3D printed it at Georgia. Now the Bulldogs are a machine that swallows up top-tier high school recruits and puts them in a system that maximizes their abilities. The highest goal of a coach is to get the most out of each player on the roster, from star quarterback to walk-on. Now, these teams have motivation outside of their personal feelings. Bama wants to avenge last year and smell the crisp college football mountaintop air, while Georgia wants to prove they weren't a one-hit wonder. The season is young and a lot can happen. But it seems like we are heading for another Bama-Georgia collision unless one of the teams on the periphery with capable athletes can make a pretty big jump early. Now, we're off to a great start to the college football season, and I don't want to put a governor on the excitement, but it seems like it may be Groundhog's Day again. I do want to go ahead and bring in David Cohn, Blaine Crane here. Guys, I would love to sit here and say, I saw 6, 7 teams that have a chance to win it. Are there this one team really surprised me and looked like they have the guys up front that can win it. But after watching Bama and Georgia, I don't know how I can get anything out of it other than, well, looks a lot like last year, and Bama's even better.
Yeah, I mean, we could dedicate an entire podcast to Alabama's dominance in this dynasty that Nick Saban has created. And it's not lost on any of us that the guy who's creating the second closest program to that is an heir apparent and coached under Nick Saban. And then the guy who's really done it in the ACC with Clemson, who's going to be on the slate tonight, and Dabo Swinney, he played at Alabama. So, look, my first reaction is this is not good for college football, right? To see 2 dominant programs, Georgia and Alabama, and no one else really has a chance, even after opening weekend. But then again, you think about, what breeds motivation better than competition? And when you see like this, this domination from Alabama and from Georgia has made USC go and make a play at Lincoln Riley, right? Let's see what he's able to do. It's made Miami go and get Mario Cristobal. Oklahoma still knocking on that door to say it's not good enough to get to the playoff. We want to win the whole thing. Notre Dame the same way. They put up a good fight against the Buckeyes. So let's see what happens. Not necessarily for this season, Jake, but I know we're going to talk about college expansion. And what I really want to get into when we talk about a 12-team playoff is what does that look like in terms of recruiting? Because you've been able to win me over on that argument over the course of the last year, yeah, the same 3 or 4 teams are going to be winning the championship for the next 3 or 4 years. But what is this 12-team playoff going to be able to do for schools who say, hey, look, we've made the playoff the last 3 years. Yeah, it was in the number 11 slot. Yeah, it was in the number 12 slot. But why don't you come play for us instead of going and being a backup at Alabama? And maybe you can be the catalyst who gets our program over the top. You never know what kind of parity that could create over, say, the next decade.
Yeah, and Blaine, I mean, after watching Ohio State, we've seen Notre Dame, still got to see Clemson on the slate tonight. But just your thoughts when it comes to Alabama and Georgia. I mean, are we just overinflating them? I just don't see how after watching how physical and fast they were.
No, they're on another level, in my opinion, especially. Well, we'll see Clemson tonight. I'm really interested to see Clemson's D-line just to see if, I get the somewhat resemblance of the same thing I saw at Georgia and Bama, because usually Clemson is one other school, is like an SEC school in the ACC, but have cats running around that look like guys from Bama, that look like guys from Georgia. And it's not going to be close this year. There's 3 teams tops. Ohio State's not beating Georgia or Bama. I don't think it'll be close. It's going to be Georgia, Bama fighting in the SEC championship. Then Georgia, Bama, and the Natty. I don't care who the number 3 or 4 teams are. They're going to walk in and get beat. And then we're going to watch the same thing we did last year. But I do think, expanding the playoffs is going to bring parity in recruiting. You can do the same thing with the transfer portal. You can have the one-hit wonders that can maybe get you there and maybe win you a game. You never know. Anthony Richardson, maybe next year. I know he's a top 10 pick, but we'll see. There's not really a team or a guy out there that's going to be able to stop Bama or Georgia. You go back and watch these games. Oregon, what was Oregon, 11th, 12th? Like, that was a varsity versus JV game, and it wasn't even close. And I want to say one thing for all my LSU fans out there. I hope you slept good, and I hope the morning's not too rough for you. Go back and watch that game, man. It was tough. Still believe in Brian Kelly, though, man. I have so many LSU fans hit me up last night. Hey, would y'all gone for 2 last night on that last drive?
No, not in the Superdome. And I'm gonna get into it and break down that game because obviously there's a lot to unpack there, especially some of the decisions Mike Norvell made. I couldn't believe it, not just pitching the ball on the goal line. But I'm gonna go ahead and get into some Booster Club questions. I see we have one. Is there any other Oregon State fans in the Booster Club? We do have a couple more. We'd love to have more, but I do want to say this about Oregon State. Thought they looked really good. I thought Nolan looked really good against Boise State. A lot of people thought that game was going to be a lot closer than it was. Coach Norman and Oregon State, what they've been able to do in a short period of time over there. Not that you can't win in Corvallis or Oregon State hasn't had success before, but they looked really physical up front and they looked really fast on the perimeter. And, it kind of bleeds into the question looking now, guys, speaking of the Pac-12, Utah now having lost to Florida. You look at the schedule for USC. Is the Pac-12 already done when it comes to the playoff outside of having a ton of chaos? Because, again, I look at Alabama. I look at Georgia. You got Clemson out there. You got Ohio State. You still got Notre Dame with 1 loss, depending on how Ohio State does. And we know there'll be a couple others sprinkled in there. But Oregon got absolutely dismantled and deconstructed by Georgia and put in their place. Like I said, Utah lost. We still don't know about USC. Washington's interesting. Oregon State is. But outside of Utah, I don't see a team in the Pac-12 that's going to make the playoff. It's going to be another year without a Pac-12 team in the playoff. And we know that after week 1, pretty much. I'd put it at 75, 80% chance.
Yeah, I think you're right, unfortunately. And again, hats off to Utah for saying we're going to go open the season in Ben Hill Griffin Stadium down in the swamp and play an SEC team at their place. Like, I love to see it. It was a fantastic football game, and Oregon was able to do what they wanted on the offensive side of the ball for much of the game. The only problem was Florida really was able to do that too. So look, we knew that was going to be a tough place to go and win. But sadly, I thought Utah was the best chance for the Pac-12 to be able to make the playoff. I don't know if that's going to happen because you're listing off all those teams who not only remain unbeaten, but who are going to be tough to beat throughout the season. And I think you can throw Michigan in there too. I mean, we're going to see what happens in the Big Ten West. But again, and the only reason I say that is because we've seen those two spots be taken up by SEC teams so frequently, right? Even when oftentimes Alabama doesn't make the conference championship. Well, what happens in the Big Ten East if something similar were to happen. If you get a Michigan, Ohio undefeated team, undefeated game in the horseshoe like my freshman year, and one of those teams has one loss and is sitting there on the outside, never know what could happen in the Big Ten championship. So that's another thing to consider. And then honestly, the Big 12 as well. Let's see what shakes out with Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, and Baylor. You never know, like if one of those teams is going to be one loss, especially if they were to win the conference championship, that's going to add a lot too. I just don't know if Utah gets in at this point.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I mean, I got them rallying through the Pac-12 lane, but what do you think?
What about USC?
Man, again,
this is the thing about USC with me. I mean, you have the big names and Jordan Addison and Caleb Williams. You're about to be able to fill some seats. You got Lincoln Riley, the huge coach, going to USC. If USC loses one game, and I'd have to go through their schedule. I don't know if they have Oregon on the road or Utah on the road. If they lose one game, I would think maybe, just maybe, that just the big names and the big head coach they got that might be able to get them to the playoffs, and even undefeated USC will probably get in the playoffs, because I'm going back and looking at it. I was really underwhelmed with Utah. Florida's a good team, but you're the 7th ranked team in the nation. You should have won that game. As much hype that was surrounding you, you should have won that game. Go back and look at Oregon. Oregon has no chance of making the playoffs after what I saw versus Georgia. But USC, if they could run the table and you look at their schedule, could be done. I could definitely see a Pac-12. If it was a team, I wouldn't say Utah or Oregon, but I would definitely say USC has a chance just because of who's their head coach is and who's the guy they have on their roster.
I have the schedule here.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Let's go through their schedule.
First of all, their head coach and their star power shouldn't matter, right? When it comes to making the playoff, like that shouldn't even come into consideration.
Yeah.
But
it will. It for sure will.
Even though, as I'm saying that, the USCTrojans.com here wants to make sure that 11-time national champion stays at the header.
It for sure will. No one wants it to, David, but it will.
Before you read that schedule, Garth, appreciate that $5 donation. He says, "Good morning, guys. Cannot agree more. It's Bama and Georgia and everyone else. Do you think in Notre Dame wins the rest of their games this year?" We'll read Notre Dame's schedule right after.
Right, I'll pull that one up after this. And Garth, I'm going to hit you with the soundboard tomorrow for that dono. Okay, Don't have it today. All right, they beat Rice 66-14. All right, now USC goes to Stanford. Jake, this is a game we've been talking about a lot. They host Fresno State.
I'm telling you, Jake Haener, the witch that he is, what they've returned, Jalen Cropper, Fresno State to me is really sneaky. And this is the one. This is their at Notre Dame like Cincinnati had last year. Earlier in the season on the road against a big-time team, big-time brand name team. And the thing is, I think Fresno State's good enough up front to hold up. Can you somehow find a way to keep Caleb Williams and that group out of the end zone 4 to 5 times? Because I think Fresno State will be able to score. You saw Rice have some success against USC. USC still, it doesn't have the best depth up front. Their starters aren't exactly elite up front. They've got a couple guys on defense that are obviously pretty special. But, man, I think Fresno, looking at that game, I believe it's week 3, that's one to really keep your eye on.
You're talking about Corvallis. USC goes to Oregon State.
Woo! That could be a loss right there. After the way I saw Oregon State play at home, you got the black jerseys, the chainsaw in the end zone. The uniforms are absolutely elite. I'm telling you right now, that 2-game stretch for USC is going to be a lot harder than what people think. And what Coach Norman's doing in Corvallis, man, I mean, he's really flipping the script out there.
Let's see here. Arizona State at home.
Win.
Washington State at home.
Win.
At Utah.
That's a loss, man.
It is a loss.
It's a loss. The Pac-12's not making it, Blaine. I'm sorry. You might as well pack that up and send that somewhere. The Pac-12's not making it.
I'm not going to guarantee that game is a loss after what I saw from Utah.
I bet Utah wins that game by at least a touchdown.
No game is guaranteed a loss. I'm just saying, like, that's going to be tough to go into Utah and win with what they've been stacking on top of the last few classes they've had. I mean, you think in one offseason Lincoln Riley can come in there and win against Utah on the road?
The transfer portal, for sure.
Again, it's great to have a star wide receiver. I'm talking about up front.
It's up front. That's
They didn't look. They gave up 14 points against Rice. Like the defense did not look terrible against Rice. And you go back and watch Utah's game plan against Florida. You go back and watch Utah's game plan against Florida, and half the game plan was, hey, we're not going to guard Richardson on zone reads. We're not going to even account for him. And look, Caleb Williams can do the same thing. I'm not going to sit here and say that it's out of the question when you said that the spread's probably going to be a touchdown.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fair enough on that. Then they go to Arizona.
Again, Arizona, that's not going to be a pushover. I think they win that game, but Arizona's not the typical Arizona that we've seen.
Cal at home.
Win.
Colorado at home.
Win.
And then at UCLA.
Win.
And then Notre Dame at home.
So you
got at least 2 losses in there if you're USC. USC is going to lose at least 2. I think they're going to lose at least 2.
All right, whose did we want next? Notre Dame?
Let's go Notre Dame's really quick.
All right, here we go. So we know the 21-10 loss at the Buckeyes. Then they got Marshall home.
That's a win.
Cal home.
That's a destruction.
They go to North Carolina. That's an interesting game.
That one probably going to take the over there.
BYU neutral site.
Take the under.
Take the under. All right, Stanford home.
Win.
UNLV home.
Win.
At Syracuse. Baber.
That's a win, but I take the under.
I think they win it, but I think it's gonna be closer than what the spread is.
They get Clemson at home.
That's a loss.
Navy neutral site.
Destruction. Navy's terrible.
Then Boston College, and then like we said, they finish at Southern Cal.
Yeah. No, I don't think Notre Dame wins the rest of their games. I think you're looking at a 3-loss season. I think I had them at 9-3 after losing to Ohio State. But let's go ahead and get into best to worst of the weekend here, Coney.
I love it. Go ahead. You want to start it?
Yeah, I'm going to start it off. Number 1 is obviously Georgia and Bama to me. Just, combining those guys. I know I let off the show with it. I don't want to stay on it too long, but Georgia and Bama were the best of the weekend. They're the class of college football.
Nice. Well, so we're going to do one best each, right?
I got 2 best and 2 worst.
Go ahead. What's your second best?
My second best is James Madison. First FBS game, pantsing Middle Tennessee State. 44-7, I think. Welcome to the FBS, guys. You belong. It's like an All-American reject song, but you guys belong. Welcome to it.
I'm shocked that one guy was able to do that.
Yeah, it's again, it's like when George Mason made the Final Four, 5-on-1. I mean, one guy can make it. I mean, James Madison. They said he was smart. I mean, damn, I didn't realize he was this good.
Look, my best is the Florida schools. Billy Napier, new head coach at Florida, welcomes in number 7 Utah, like we talked about. A fantastic win to open up his career, a tough win. They look sharp. I mean, Florida State goes into a hostile environment last night, holds on, beats an LSU team. I mean, that's a marquee win for a program that really has struggled. What we say, they haven't had a winning season since 2016. Yeah, that's a big win. And then Mario Cristobal hangs 70 in his first game at Miami. I know it was against Bethune-Cookman, but still, you have to be feeling pretty good about that. So the Florida schools that we've really been talking about a lot this offseason really showed up to play. And then my next best was the Houston and UTSA game. Now, I didn't think for much of this game that Houston deserved that top 25 ranking. UTSA outplayed them for 3 quarters, but Houston and Clayton Tune really showed up in the 4th quarter and then all 3 overtimes to hang on and win that football game. It was a fantastic football game, and I'm glad that I was able to watch that one.
Yeah, it was. What a football game. Hey, my best is one of my best is a guy I've been extremely critical about, Stetson Bennett, the mailman. The kid just looked nice on every aspect. I don't think I saw him throw a bad ball, was phenomenal in the pocket, made every right decision. And I mean, he's a dark horse and he's having fun. So we'll see at the end of the year. My second best is just college football in general, guys. What a weekend. What a weekend full of phenomenal games, even just to cap it off with that LSU-Florida State game, which I had no idea was going to come down to the wire like that. I'm just so glad it's back. I can just go through so many games from this Friday, Saturday, hell, even Thursday that were just phenomenal. And boys, it's just week 1. We're just getting started. It's only up from here. So college football is one of my best.
Yeah, well, to me, it's week 2, and we got a game tonight. I'm going to go to my 2 worst. First, old Auburn defensive coordinators. Ew, puke. Derek Mason gives up 44 to Central Michigan. I don't think there's 44 people that live in Central Michigan. Just absolutely disgusting, but not shocked. Not shocked. Watch him do it at Auburn. A little bit overrated, you think? Maybe just a little. It's okay to be everybody's friends, but you also have to stop people on defense. Everybody's like, oh, Derek Mason's such a great guy. Such a great guy. Good. I'm happy. I hope every guy's a great guy. But the offense doesn't just stop because they're like, guys, don't throw it to the open guy. Derek Mason's a great person. The players love him. He's embraced the community. We can't get this 3rd and 1. How dare we? Then Gene Chizik at North Carolina. Whoa.
Give up 40 and a quarter.
Whoa. Like, here's the thing, though. It's one thing to get beat. If they were like Bethune-Cookman and then they gave up, 40 points in the 4th quarter to Miami, I could understand that. I could be like, you know what? I get it. You're North Carolina, and you let App score 40 in the 4th quarter. You gave up 61 points to App, all right? Appalachian State, all right? Gene Chizik, national champion coach. DC at Texas, national champion there. They were so poorly coached. No DB collision to receiver. The safety and nickel play in that game was atrocious. I mean, watching from my living room, I had already benched 3 players in North Carolina State.
From your living room?
It was wild to see. I'm so shocked that a team coached by Mac Brown was so poorly coached. And Gene Chizik. North Carolina looked pathetic on defense. Absolutely pathetic. Couldn't tackle. Could barely get lined up. Looked lazy. Didn't have guys chasing after runners. I was shocked. Then number 2, Louisville. Scott Satterfield. He must have just got in the car on a cold morning because that seat is heating up as he's getting to going to work every day. It's getting a little hotter and a little hotter. Dino Babers was on the hot seat at Syracuse. Huge win for them. Sean Tucker, who's an NFL running back. I mean, Syracuse doesn't have a ton of weapons. We know about him. But, oh, my goodness, Louisville with Malik Cunningham, right? Everybody's, here we go. Louisville's, they're going to play fast. They're going to be explosive. Malik Cunningham this, Malik Cunningham that. Then you come up and get your ass beat with a wiffle ball bat by Syracuse.
Yeah, I was not expecting that loss for sure. My worst, let's go back to Thursday night. Purdue's 4th quarter play calling. Guys, they had the game in hand here. They were up. We talk a lot about how important it is to be efficient in a 2-minute drill when you're playing from behind. How about running an efficient 4-minute drill when you're playing from ahead to put the game away? Yeah. They had multiple opportunities to run the football on 2 different drives with 6 minutes and counting. They threw the ball every single play but once. Now, I understand that you've been more efficient through the air, and I understand that, hey, you don't believe you can pick up the 1 first down. You need 1 first down to win the football game as you're hosting Penn State. And you don't think you can get that on the ground. I understand that, but sometimes running out the clock is more important than even picking up that first down. You run the ball a few times there rather than pass, and I don't think Penn State even gets an opportunity to go and score at the end. To me, it was unacceptable, especially when the players played their hearts out there. My second worst is Nebraska. Now, Blaine, you're going to take LSU, right? You're going to take LSU? Okay, I just want to make sure it gets covered, or else I'll take that one. But I'm going to go with Nebraska. Again, we've been talking about Nebraska this offseason. I really thought that, Scott Frost, not necessarily because he's on the hot seat. I just thought, he's finally been in the system for a while. He's been able to recruit the players he wants. They lost a lot of close football games last season, that he would really show up and that they would be able to win some of those closer games. They lost to Illinois last week. We talked enough about that. But then, to come in here and play, let's see what the score at halftime. North Dakota Fighting Hawks, 7-7 at halftime. You're the Nebraska Cornhuskers. I don't care. Go blow that team out. Now, the final score ended up being 38-17, but 7-all at halftime is unacceptable to me if you're Nebraska. And, we've been talking about what sorts of moves are going to be made when that contract buyout goes down in a few months. I don't think Scott Frost lasts the year.
I think it was 17-17 going into the 4th in that game. I might be wrong. It was either late third.
It was 24-17.
24-17 going to the 4th, so it was a fight. All right. My worst, let's start off with Oregon. What happened?
What? I tell you what happened. You ran into a monster.
I would say, probably the most embarrassing open week loss in the history of the school. And the history of the football team, probably the most embarrassing loss.
It's one of them.
You got a couple first downs, got my hopes up. They came out. I was like, okay, maybe. Maybe after that, you got absolutely drugged. You did not deserve to be on the field with Georgia. It's not even close. And hey, let's go to Iowa's offense. Terrible. Yeah, I saw their QB. Their QB had a QBR like 1.1. I didn't know that was possible.
He had a QBR if you're fired.
Yeah, I didn't know you could actually do that. It was terrible. Iowa's just still Iowa. There's nothing different. Everything's cool. You're waving at the kids. That's great. But can we score a touchdown? You have to win the game from getting two safeties.
Ooh.
Two safeties. No. It's 2022. It's not 1940. Johnny Crazy Legs isn't in the backfield getting the dive and the little option pass. We're not doing that. We got to get past this. You'll never make it to the playoff. They just never deserve to make it to the playoff if their offense doesn't change. Yeah, they never deserve. They never deserve to. That's my bad. Oregon, you blew it for everybody. You're making me look stupid. Stop it.
No, I mean, look, it's the truth. I mean, again, and I see in the chat, they're like, hey, let's not overreact to how good Georgia is, because if Oregon goes 8-4, then
Oregon's
that's not as impressive as a win. It wasn't just the score. It was how Georgia won. Like, Bama beat Utah State 55-0. Yeah, it's Utah State. Yeah, Utah State did win the Mountain West last year, but it's how they beat them, just how physically dominant, how they looked, how clean they played. You can tell they have the best players that are the biggest, that are the most disciplined in a scheme they understand. That is hell to try and keep up with. See, Stuart Nick says, tried to tell you I predicted 52-20 dogs and got called crazy. Me and David both picked Georgia, too. I don't think anybody called you crazy.
I'm sorry, right? Mr. Perfect.
No,
I guess you've never made a mistake.
Look, Georgia, I'm telling you right now, like, it didn't matter if it was Oregon. There's one team I'm looking at that has a chance against Georgia, and that's Bama. And again, when those two guys play, I mean, I don't know. That may be like the secret to how we create element 115 that, lets the spaceships drive.
Yeah, maybe that's when the aliens come down.
Maybe that's when the aliens come down. When Georgia
just to watch the
plays
game.
Bama, just to watch the game. Like, guys, listen, we flew in from Zeta Reticula 4 to watch this one.
Yeah, they just hit a camera up there, like they're in a suite, just like eating popcorn in this wave.
Georgia should have just told Oregon the second half of that game, you know what, bring out the Falcons. Let the Falcons finish the second half, and let's see if the Falcons, being down this much, can come back and beat us.
Can we go ahead and talk about LSU from last night, though? Can we just go ahead and talk about that?
Go ahead.
Just before we get to rapid fire, and then bring Brandon Marcello in here. Here's my thing. All right, to me, and LSU fans don't need to panic. You never need to panic. After one game.
Panic.
Okay, you think they should panic, Mine?
Start panicking. I'm panicking. You should panic.
I don't disagree with them.
I don't think they should panic. And here's why. There are a couple things, and I even tweeted this out before the game. Obviously, you're looking at how good everybody plays. You're looking at the personnel, how it operates. But to me, I was looking at the organization of the game, how penalty-free they played, how were they on substitutions, how were they communicating, and obviously not turning the ball over. That was one of the worst special teams performances that I've seen. It would be very hard for me, if I'm Brian Kelly, not to make a move after this game, because it's the little things. You drop 2 punts. You had to do that for FSU to win. For FSU to win that game, you had to play that way. Jordan Travis had the game of his life. Okay, he had the game of his life, but it wasn't like he was having to make incredible throws. What was incredible about his performance was keeping the play alive. Well, LSU kept lunging at his waist. They kept lunging at the inside of his waist, and he would just spin out, get outside the pocket, and find somebody over the middle. Now, they were able to run the ball a lot because Mason Smith got hurt celebrating. You saw Ali Gay get kicked out of the game for targeting, but FSU kind of lined up and looked like they wanted it a little more up front than what LSU did. The offensive line, still a huge problem. Guys like Will Campbell are going to get there. That's a true freshman playing left tackle. He's got the ability. But I am worried about LSU up front. Not that they should panic, but also they were making a lot of similar mistakes than they did last year. You can't kick an extra point. You're getting 20-yard field goals blocked. That is not Brian Kelly, CEO, organizational football that you expect. It looked a lot like 2021 LSU. Problems all over the field. Boute's pouting the whole game. Doesn't even get his eyes around on a slant. Now, all of a sudden, him and Malik Neighbors have wiped everything LSU from their Instagram and stuff. What's going on?
No doubt. I mean, you guys know how I feel about LSU fans. I think LSU fans are the most loyal in the country. I'll say that every show. But I really think LSU fans wanted to win that football game more than the players did. Jake, you're exactly right. I mean, they look lethargic. Brian Kelly's going to be a good coach at LSU. I truly believe that. But let's don't be afraid to say right now, after what we saw, LSU is not a good football team. They're not good in any one facet of the game. The play you're talking about with Kayshon Boutte on the slant in the end zone, I had to watch it 10 times. I rewound it 10 times because I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I mean, he's running around the field pouting. LSU just not good, and even still was able, with that de facto home field advantage, able to come back late and at least keep the game close. I think LSU is going to be fine under Brian Kelly's tenure once he has enough time to get the program on the right track. But I just don't think that how confident can you be for the rest of the season? I was trying to go through my head. How many SEC West teams would have played a poor performance against Florida State than last night? Maybe Missouri. I mean, maybe Auburn could have had a similar performance. I think Auburn puts up a better fight last night. I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think around the SEC West?
Blaine?
I mean, God, that's such – I mean, I would say Auburn or Missouri. The thing about the more teams I watch in the SEC West, the better I feel about Auburn. But you go back and look at this game, and it blew my mind. First of all, Florida State has some cats. All right, on that defensive line, they have the defensive line and linebacker that looked extremely, extremely good in how they're supposed to look. But the way the offense started in the first half was extremely slow. Everything was sluggish. You know, the littlest thing was the hardest thing to do. Jalen Daniels came out in the first half, and I don't know if I saw him go through a progression. It was one look, and then I'm ducking and I'm running no matter what. And he got better towards the second half. But towards the second half, they started mixing the tempo a little bit up on offense. And that's when you saw them start to move the ball a little bit. I feel like all the best OCs know how to mix tempos in the right way, whether it's starting slow, speeding it up a little bit. And LSU started to do that in the second half. But it comes back to me. I mean, the O-line is young. You knew the O-line would be young. There's going to be some growing pains. But the quarterback play, Jalen Daniels wasn't the guy. And I still don't think he'll be the I still don't think he's going to be the guy. I understand Kayshon Boutte had a bad game. You still have 4 NFL wide receivers out there. I mean, the first half, what do you have, 10 passing yards? So, I mean, how many times do you throw it? You were literally saying height, going through one progression and taking off. You're not going to win games doing that. And I understand against a Florida State team that always tries to blow the game in the fourth quarter. Florida State has always done this. They will let people come back. They will make the biggest mistakes at the worst times. And they let LSU back into that game. But I still think LSU is a better team than them. It hurts losing Ali Gay to that targeting and another one of your best D linemen getting hurt celebrating. But I still think you have so much talent if you're LSU. You have so much talent running around on that field. I thought the linebacker play for LSU was atrocious. I thought you had some good points in the secondary. Major Burns is a player. You have guys on that team.
Jay Ward's a player.
Jay Ward's a player. Like, you have guys NFL on that team.
Player.
You have NFL players on that team. And it was just so surprising for me to see it be like this, for a Brian Kelly team, for special teams to be that bad. And realistically, if you think about it, they dropped 2 punts and got no points off of it. So it should have been worse than what it actually was. Yep. But I'm concerned, and the reason I'm concerned is because I'm not panicking. I'll let you go in a second, Jake. 1 second.
No.
I'm not panicking because it's just the mistakes that LSU was making is not usually mistakes you see from a Brian Kelly coach team.
Yeah, well, Jaden Daniels to me was one of the few bright spots on that team. And again, I don't think he is a guy that's going through 3 progressions and going to the easiest guy, but he was running for his life. I mean, LSU could not protect. You had no run game because you could not block. They tried gap, they tried zone scheme, and then you're running for your life. Number 5 from Florida State bought property in the backfield. The guy they got from Albany State, the Traverse guy, was in the backfield the whole night, and then he blocked 2 field goals. They were so bad up front, they couldn't even protect on an extra point. Jane Daniels, the only reason that LSU was even in that game. Do I like him sliding before he got the first down and then having to get in fourth down? No. Is he the greatest passer of all time? But when Kayshon Boutte is pouting his ass off on the sidelines, Malik Neighbors is freaking out because he's dropped the punt. A lot of your skill guys outside of a couple are kind of losing their minds and they're really not in it because there's no flow in the offense. How many times did Jaden Daniels make a run on third down and long to be able to extend a drive? He took him 99 yards with a minute and 20 seconds to go, including a couple fourth downs and a fourth down and 1 from the goal line. I can't believe they dropped back and threw that pass. I thought they were going to put him on the run and run some sort of pick play, like a 2-point play. Is Jaden Daniels the best quarterback out there? No, but there's one thing I saw from Jaden Daniels last night. When Malik Neighbors dropped that second punt and it looked like LSU was out of the game, who was one of the first guys to go over and talk to him? It was Jaden Daniels. And then all of a sudden, Florida State, horrible play call on the goal line. You never pitch the ball on the goal line in that situation. I disagree with Greg McElroy. You don't not ever pitch it on the goal line, but in that situation, you sure as hell don't pitch it. I don't even hand it off. I'm letting Jordan Travis go up the middle or in through the B and D gaps to go score. But I think putting it on Jaden Daniels last night is the last guy that you should put it on, because that dude was running for his life, had no help in the run game, and still put LSU in a position to go into overtime, which they probably would have won with the momentum they would have had going in there. That was why I was shaking my head like that, because if you look at the numbers, I don't see how Jaden Daniels goes 26 of 35 for 210 yards, 2 touchdowns. Running the ball, he has 16 carries for 114 yards, no touchdowns, but along the 25, and kept 5 different drives alive. You can blame a lot of people. Jaden Daniels sure as hell ain't one of them.
Yeah, I mean, I think both of you are making good points there, because I agreed with Blaine when I was watching the first half of that game. He's not making any, he's not going through any progressions. None. He's not getting the ball out of his hand. But then again, we have to look back. I mean, Max Johnson was looking the same way a lot last year. I mean, I don't think Jaden Daniels was being put in great positions to get the ball out of his hand quickly. And then the one time that I really did see him do that, the slant route at the goal line, put it right in Kayshon Boutte's chest, and the guy didn't even turn around and look. So I think that there's plenty of blame to go around when it comes to LSU. Jake, my thing with you is you made this comment in the offseason that Brian Kelly is the stepdad that LSU needed but didn't want. And it's a great analogy, but oftentimes we think, oh, okay, so then discipline is instilled and then the players just will immediately accept that. Do you think there's a situation at LSU right now where they're thinking, this guy's coming in, trying to discipline us? He didn't recruit us. A lot of the guys on that team still had won a national title from 2019. Maybe they think, they still wanted Coach O to be the coach. I'm not in the locker room. I don't know. Do you think any of the players are kind of pushing back on the culture that Brian Kelly wants to instill?
Yeah. Here's the thing. Everybody can get excited when the new coach is hired, right? New system. We're going to be back to where we were. All the players that may have been problems in the locker room, some you may have heard about, some you may have not heard about. Getting Brian Kelly there, everybody's excited. Well, you're not going to know until adversity actually hits. You're not going to know until, like last year, whenever LSU was going bad, they just fold or they would just give in. You weren't ever going to know until it started going bad. Now you know. This takes time. Building culture, I always say it's like fixing an economy. You're not going to fix the economy in a week. You're not going to fix the economy in a month. It takes a year to fix the economy. A lot of good daily decisions over a decent amount of time. That's what it takes. And last night was evident. LSU's not there. Because, again, an organized LSU and LSU that plays about as clean as possible is as dangerous as anybody in the country. But that is a light switch that takes a couple cycles, even with the transfer portal, to turn on. It's not a faucet that you turn on and off. 2-3 years from now, I don't think you'll see a guy pouting like Kayshon Boutte on the sideline. I think you'll see a totally different group and a different style up front. I think you'll see LSU take care of the ball, not have to worry about the little things like extra points or getting a personal foul. It's little things. The personal foul after LSU scored a touchdown to make it within a touchdown, then you have Harold Perkins Jr. Pushes a guy at the end of the kickoff return to give FSU 15 more yards when they're up a score, which if they go get a field goal, the game's pretty much over. Now LSU got a 3 and out. Thank goodness for them. But it's the little things like that that I don't think you'll see down the road with Brian Kelly. Because, again, stepdad comes in. You guys are butting heads early. I don't want to clean up my room. Why are you hanging out with my mom? You're not my dad. Oh, you want to punish me? You're not my dad. Well, they're going to find out go after this year. Yes, in this program, I am the father. And, like the Weakest Link show, goodbye. Go to the transfer portal if you want. This, that, and the other. That's why I tweeted that before the game. I'm going to watch how organized LSU is, because an organized and accountable LSU is as dangerous as anyone. And any football team that's not organized and that's not accountable, especially at this high of a level in a game like this, you will lose it. Most teams lose games. They don't win them. I've been trying to explain this. Why is Alabama the best at what they do over a long period of time? Yeah, they have the best players. Duh. But they have the best players that make the least mistakes. And when you have that together and you let other teams beat themselves, like Oregon, right? Oregon went turnover. Couple good plays, turnover. And then it just snowballed. Georgia was doing really nice things, but it wasn't like Georgia just stopped them on every play, or there was a negative run play every time, or they didn't complete a pass. They force you to make mistakes, because every mistake that they make is one less that you've made, and it helps you. It's just the truth.
Yep. Agreed.
All right.
Yeah, agreed.
Let's you want to get to a little rapid fire here, Coney, before we get to the break?
Let's hit the NFL for a second. Bears president and CEO Ted Phillips is resigning. He will retire at the end of the 2022 season.
Yep, he's the first president outside of the Hallis McCaskey family there for the Bears. He's been in the organization for 40 years. Really good career, but the Bears need an influx of some new talent. That they need some new life into there. Again, Justin Fields is out there throwing the ghosts. Again, Darnell Mooney, it's a cool story, but like I said yesterday, so is Hansel and Gretel. That's not going to win you the Super Bowl, but it's a great career. Ted Phillips going to ride off into the sunset, man.
Max Scherzer, the Mets pitcher, left the game with fatigue in his left side. Keep in mind, he's already missed 7 weeks with an oblique strain. He sort of calmed everyone down, saying that it was just precautionary. Do you think this affects the Mets in the postseason?
No, I think Max is smart. He's getting to the age, again, when you have cat eyes, you can see the future. I think he's just being smart. And listen, as a Braves fan, I would love to see the Mets, go down and only a game back right now. Excuse me. NL East, check it out. But I don't want it to come by injury. I'm glad they have Scherzer. I'm glad Scherzer's going to be okay. I'm glad they have DeGrom. I want them to fall apart with all their superstars. Rule 17, no excuses. Play like a champion.
Blaine, Braves are 1 game back.
Great. Awesome.
Here
Sweet, guys.
we
Cool. We'll see, man. It's gonna look the baseball down the stretch is gonna be fun to watch this year. It really is.
It really is.
Speaking about New York teams' games back, hey, the Yankees only up 5 games on the Rays right now. How you guys feeling about that?
That's fine. Coming off a big dub yesterday, not worried. Look at my face. I'm not worried. We're up 5 games. So
I don't know. We've talked about falling apart. The Yankees. I mean, what, 15-game lead, something like that. 16 after the All-Star break. Most famous franchise, maybe.
Well, yeah, the hardest part of their schedule.
Mickey Mantle.
The hardest part of their schedule was after the All-Star break anyway. So it's good. It's good to go through this. Take your lumps, and you'll peak at the right time. So hashtag not worried. Hashtag never be worried. Hashtag worry about the Mets, not us.
Hey, I think you're a hashtag super worried, and I think you're a hashtag trying to play it off. Hashtag stop playing it off.
Hashtag you'll never know the truth. Hashtag I'm not worried.
I like it. I like it.
Pujols homered again.
I love it,
fellas. 695. He's going to get there. I feel it.
I think so too.
I really hope so, man.
Spencer
really
Strider set a Braves record with 16 Ks last week. Man, is this guy going to be the NL Rookie of the Year?
Well, it's like between him and Michael Harris, man. It's between the young guys on the Braves roster. Look, Spencer Strider, which we all know, Strider is German for "you're out." It's just really good to see the Braves farm system continuing to come through, bringing up big time guys. And we already know Ronnie Acuna, Ozzie Albies is literally just straight out of a Dr. Seuss book, making plays at second and being able to switch hit. Vaughn Grissom comes up and is doing his thing. Austin Riley, Riley, please keep doing it. And then you look at guys like Spencer Strider on the mound. Soroka is going to be healthy. Max Fried continues to get better. It's just a great time to be a Braves fan and not a great time to be a Yankees fan.
Speaking about pitchers, Dylan Cease had a no-hitter broken up in 8 2/3, fellas.
Yeah, is it too much to say the no-hitter ceased to exist right before the final out?
You made it all the way to the 8th?
I know. No, 8 2/3.
8 2/3, man.
You needed one more out.
Oh.
And you know what? The guy who got the hit, you're the hero. You're the hero. Now it went from a game that is one of the top stories, even with college football on SportsCenter, to, hey, the White Sox won and only gave up one hit. Good job, guys. What time's the game tomorrow? So, look, Dylan Cease, you talk about another guy who's really, really come up and continued to improve. He was just a hard thrower really earlier in his career, but he's added some nuance, is really able to pitch backwards a lot better now, and has really, really good stuff.
Man, this almost made my worst list earlier, but Virginia Tech, the situation at Old Dominion, the elevators weren't working, coaches stuck in the elevators. Seems like Virginia Tech maybe had some items stolen from their locker room. What's going on at Old Dominion right now?
Last chance you, man.
Well, no, listen, here's what I think. I had a long thought about this, and I'm not into conspiracy theories or, well, you know, a couple of them. But the elevators stop while y'all rob us. It's got a real Ocean's 13 vibe to it. Seems like a heist. I've played enough Grand Theft Auto to know a good heist when I've seen one. So wait a minute. We're stuck in the elevator and stuff's missing out of our locker room. I would love to see the timeline of when this matches up. What type of person steals something out of the locker room? It reminds me on Billy Madison when they go on the field trip and they're like, who eats 40 sack lunches? And then you see like Chris Farley with Norm Macdonald just eating all the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and taking money out of the kids' wallets. But again, those two things happen at the same time. I'm a little skeptical, Hippo, on that. And look, we need to send somebody in there, investigative team. I don't know, get the people from the blacklist to go figure it out.
I was wondering why they showed George Clooney at that game. And now it makes more sense.
Look, I want to look into it. We may need to send the Crandon Company investigative team. Over there after you
got to pull them from Dubai then if you're going to do that.
Well, listen, they need to get out of Dubai. They've been there long enough. I don't want to blow their cover.
You're right.
I want to see if Justine has this clip of Robert Griffin III talking about one of the Michigan quarterbacks scoring a touchdown. First of all, Robert Griffin was like making fun of the kid's name, like, "Oh, I'm not going to make any puns about that. I'm not going to make any comments." And then he goes and talks about orgies in the end zone. Do we have that clip?
Yeah.
And what do you know, guys? It's an orgy in the end zone.
Wendy.
Bro, what?
After he's already said multiple times, like, I'm not even going to pronounce this kid's name. Like, it's just unprofessional.
Well, to me, y'all know me. I love a good joke. I love a good pun. I love a good play on words. But that's like the lowest of the low-hanging fruit there. We can't come up with something. I don't hate it. I don't think I'm as upset as you guys are, Cone. I mean, you're a 70-year-old trapped in a 34-year-old's body, so I know this just really grinds your gears. I can't wait for you to tell RG3 to get off your lawn Wednesday for using the word orgy. But, yeah, I mean, I feel like RG3 is better than that. I feel like we can come up with something better than that. I'm not saying you have to be Dr. Seuss, but, I mean, I feel like we, let's go for gold here. Shoot for the moon. Sometimes you land on the stars, I mean, I don't know. I feel like it was low-hanging fruit. We got to be better than that.
Must be better than that. Blaine, go ahead.
I mean, yeah. Like, how do you get to that point? Like, before the game, they had to be talking. It's like, hey, man, I think I'm going to say orgy today during the game. You think they'll let me say orgy? This man said orgy. Like, I can understand certain things. Like, that's not even low-hanging fruit. You're just weird.
Well, I mean, what are we talking like Deshaun Watson weird here?
Okay, no, that's...
No,
that's weird.
There are levels to this.
Like, yeah, I just never saw someone score a touchdown in the football game and everyone celebrates like, "Hey guys, there's an orgy in the end zone right now." Have you?
Well, his last name is. I can understand where he was coming from. I don't like the execution. I really feel like he could have. There could be something better. He'd be like, "Hey man, there's." I'm not even going to say that.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Well, again, to me, I don't hate it as much as you guys, but like,
look, I'm glad to see Michigan's third string quarterback rushing touchdowns. That's what I care about mostly. And then as far as
he's starting game 3 though, Cone. Isn't he starting game 3?
Well, I thought it was maybe
the fourth guy starting
game 4. Even though on that front, I will say I think J.J. McCarthy solidified his role as the starting quarterback. We're going to find out a lot more game 2. I mean, they're playing Hawaii. Congratulations. Come on up to Ann Arbor and let's see what's really real. But When I was watching that game, I didn't think Cade McNamara threw the ball well enough to sort of lock in that number one role, especially with J.J. McCarthy coming in, using his feet, and he's already been guaranteed to get the start against a bad Hawaii team. I don't know. It just really felt like I was tracking it on social media too, seeing, what people were saying in terms of the Michigan faithful. What I want to see is, can J.J. McCarthy be a throw first, run second quarterback? That's really what I want to see, because we know when he's run first and throw second, he's phenomenal on the ground. Well, that's fine against Colorado State. When you're playing Michigan State or you're playing Penn State on the road or you're down in the horseshoe, can you be a throw first quarterback and bang a slant on 3rd and 8 and get a first down and not necessarily have to use your feet? That's what I want to see. But I think J.J. McCarthy probably solidified that starting role. We'll find out more soon. And then as it relates to RG3 and a lot of the rest of these guys out here, I'm starting the hashtag "I'll do it for half" movement.
Yeah,
look, y'all know me. I said I'll already do it. If they'll let it show the games, we should just call the games. I've actually had a lot of people ask that. But, I do want to talk about the Michigan quarterback situation, take some questions from the Boost Club here. We're about to get Brandon Marcello from 247 Sports to hop in here. But make sure you take a second to like and subscribe on YouTube. Go ahead and hit that sub button. Going to be bringing it every day, 7:30 to 9 Eastern. Great guests. Week 1 is now done. Well, not technically. We still got Clemson and Georgia Tech tonight in what should be probably a pantsing of the highest order. But that's why you play the game. A lot of people, including myself, thought LSU was going to win last night, and they booed. I do want to give a shout-out to Danny Cannell. All right, we're going to get Danny on this week at some point. I know he's really excited about Florida State. He did on Twitter. Me and Josh Pate said we thought that LSU was going to win. He said he thought FSU was going to win. And so, Danny, again, as I understand, you haven't had a lot of wins in the Florida State category or the ACC category in general. I want to take this time
to
congratulate you. No, it's not a subtle shot. It's not a subtle shot. That's the truth. And Danny will say that's the truth. We love Danny Cannell here. But we'll get Danny on so he can gloat about Florida State. But, yeah, win for the Florida schools. But make sure you like and subscribe on YouTube. Go to the Daily Wire plus dailywire.com. Sign up, become a member as well. Check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Leave a 5-star review. Subscribe and tell your friends. But, Cone, speaking about friends, all right, Michigan plays Hawaii, which I haven't seen. This Hawaii team is not very good. After what Vanderbilt did to them and Western Kentucky just did to them, I haven't seen a person – Timmy Chang was pretty upset after the Western Kentucky game. I haven't seen a person that upset in Hawaii since the guy found out that Sarah Marshall was there with the singer, Peter from Forgetting Sarah Marshall. I think they call him PPOP was his Hawaiian name. But it's a 50-point spread.
Is it really?
Is it 50?
Cone. I'm just, look, I know Cade's not the best of all time. Okay. But it's not like he looked bad.
No, he did
in the
not
first game,
bad.
and he just took you to the play. I love the way they packaged JJ McCarthy. Why isn't it Cade's job with the package JJ McCarthy? And then when you get to the playoff and have to see a Georgia or an Alabama, you can sprinkle in a little more JJ, use that witchery a little bit more. But Cade McNamara is like your guiding hand. He's keeping it steady.
Okay, yeah, but again, is keeping it steady going to be enough? I agree with you. Cade McNamara did not play a bad football game the other day. So for anyone saying he did, I think that that's false. What I'm saying is I don't think he came in and played well enough. He didn't play to the level he needed when there's another guy behind you who clearly has the same who potentially has the same skill sets as you, but with more upside. We had a bunch of questions when Jim Harbaugh announced this. One starter game 1 and one starter game 2, right? One of those was, well, is JJ McCarthy still going to be sprinkled into the game plan in game 1, or is this Cade's full game and then JJ starts against Hawaii? Well, we saw it early. JJ McCarthy came in, and when he came in, he played really well. So we got the answer to that. So that the inverse of that question must be asked. Okay, JJ McCarthy's going to start against Hawaii. Does Cade McNamara get sprinkled in? Because here's my question, Jake. If JJ McCarthy can keep it steady the same way that Cade McNamara can through the air, but then adds the upside on his feet, well, then that's your starting quarterback, right? Because what's Cade McNamara going to come in and do for Michigan on offense that JJ McCarthy can't do? Now, like I said, I don't think we're going to find out against Hawaii. You're not going to find out really until late in one of these Big Ten games when you really need someone to keep it steady and you need someone to really release that dig route over the middle on 3rd and 12 and you're down late in the game. That's where I really want to find out, can JJ McCarthy be a throw first quarterback and not look to run every time? The reports out of camp are that, yes, he can do that. I'm not sure. There's a reason Cade McNamara was named a captain. You don't just get named captain at Michigan unless you're doing everything right, and it's about more than playing well. So look, Cade McNamara is not going to transfer if he's not the starting quarterback, especially in the middle of the season. Captains don't do that.
Well, a couple things. One, Sister Riggs, no, I'm not arguing for a 2-quarterback scheme. I like having those packages. You can put it in the red zone, similar to a Wildcat. You saw Auburn do it a little bit with Robbie Ashford too, which I think Robbie Ashford's going to be the guy. And I see Sven, buddy Sven Krosberg says, if Michigan wants to have a shot at Ohio State in the playoffs, they need a better QB, period, end of story. Wait, didn't they beat Ohio State and make the playoff last year with Cade McNamara?
Defense not the same this year.
Yeah, well, okay, that's not Cade McNamara's fault. I agree that J.J. McCarthy is eventually going to be the better player. But one of the things that Cade McNamara brings is, while he may not win you the game, he is not going to lose you the game. And the first time that J.J. McCarthy goes out there, they say, all right, J.J., you're the starter. It's your team. Cade, thanks for the memories, Fall Out Boy style. Even though some of them weren't so good, but some of them were really good. And J.J. McCarthy goes out there and has 3 highlight plays, but those 2 pick sixes because he's out there improvising and it cost you the game. I don't want to hear anything from Michigan fans about, maybe we should have started Cade McNamara. Maybe Cade McNamara was the best thing for us. But, David, you know as well as I do, you'll never know that until you find out. That's why my thing is, all right, if J.J. McCarthy has made the steps, if you feel like he is in a place where he can handle the whole offense, you don't think he's going to put the team in harm's way while trying to do incredible things, then name him the starter. Then he should have started game 1 against Colorado State. I just feel like this. And you even saw, I think there's a quote from Cade McNamara. Let me pull it up right here. I saw it. It was an article, I believe was from ESPN, and it really just stuck out to me because I was talking about the locker room thing. So they asked Cade McNamara about being the starter last season, helping Michigan to a 12-2 record, its first Big Ten title under Harbaugh, and a berth in the college football playoff. And this is when Jim Harbaugh said multiple guys are going to start. He said, this is Cade McNamara. I would definitely say it's pretty unusual, McNamara said. It was a kind of thing I wasn't expecting by the end of camp. I thought I had my best camp. I thought I put myself in a good position, and that was just the decision that coach went with. I'm just telling you, team captain right there says he feels like he has his best camp. Everybody rallied around the guy last year. That's fine, J.J. McCarthy. You better be a dog. You better be a dog, because if you're going to come in here and take over for a guy that's done it, that took Michigan helped take Michigan from the outhouse to the penthouse and stop getting laughed at every time they played Ohio State, then you better do it. You better do it, and we won't know until we know. I just don't like the method here, and I haven't.
Blaine?
You know what you have with these guys. With McNamara, I mean, he's consistent. He's going to be the same guy every day. The ceiling's a lot higher for JJ. But I mean, you look at certain games too. I mean, who do you have a better chance of? First of all, the best player plays. The best player is going to play. Who do you have a better chance of beating Ohio State with? Because that defense is not the same as last year. I mean, Hutch ain't running around that D line causing pressure. I mean, Dax Hill gone. So, I believe. I mean, you did get to the playoffs with McNamara, and the kid's nice, but I wasn't really impressed the way he threw the ball. I know, David, you kind of mentioned that too, and JJ came in and looked nice. But at the end of the day, you go through week 2 through Hawaii, you'll see. But you have to pick, okay? You have to pick. You can't let this be
our call. It can't be. It's one guy's call. It's Jim Harbaugh. If Cade McNamara really had his best camp ever, Jim Harbaugh has to see that. If J.J. McCarthy can do all of the steady things Cade McNamara can, but can even make bigger plays in bigger games, then it's Jim Harbaugh who has to be seeing that in camp.
I agree. You're a head coach for a reason.
That's exactly right, even though you wear khaki shorts and cleats. We're going to go ahead and get Brandon Marcello in here in 1 second. Let's go ahead and get him in. Somebody said punter go football games on during weddings. I'm not at the wedding. If you have a fall weddings, what is that? Please don't ever do that. I mean, I'm getting married, and the first thing Reed knew was it's not happening in the fall. That's actually the exact opposite of what would happen. But we're going to get Brandon Marcello in here. Let's go ahead and get him hooked up. I want to ask him about literally everything. Brandon, what's up, man? It's good to have you again.
What's going on, guys?
Yeah, another week in the books, week 2 of college football season. You saw what I did there, because I don't think week 0 is really a thing, and I never will. It's just like patient 0 and pre-boarding on an airplane. You're just the first people to board. But from 247 Sports, Brandon Marcello. And Brandon, I want to go ahead and jump right into it. Obviously, we've had a lot on the field, but a lot off the field as well. Gets announced that, by 2026 or maybe even earlier, we could see a 12-team playoff. They talked about the format. The 6 automatic qualifiers are the highest-rated conference champions. There's some more minutia to it. Just your overall thoughts on the number 12 and kind of the format that the College Football Playoff Committee went with, or the board.
Well, it's funny. It's funny how they worked for 2 years on all this. They presented a plan, and that plan was bandied about, and no one could come to a conclusion that we should do this. It needs more research and all that. And then they end up adopting what was originally proposed and been worked on for 2 years, just 9 months later. And now we're in a position where, as SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey told us before the season opener here in Atlanta between Georgia and Oregon with some media, is that now we're trying to push this thing across where let's go ahead and start in 2024, but that was going to be a logistical nightmare even before now this 9-month delay. And so it's going to be a very, very difficult thing to do to get this thing enacted before 2026. Now, having said that, I mean, it's long been expected it was going to be 12 teams. We've long expected that it was just going to be a rubber stamp type situation. But the reason why it was slowed down is because feelings got hurt. The SEC added Texas and OU. Commissioners kind of freaked out, saying, "Oh, we can't trust you, Greg Sankey, because one, you were on the working group that came up with this plan for 2 years, and two, we got to get our own ducks in a row and figure out where we stand as conferences to better solidify ourselves when we do move ahead with the 12-team playoff before we make that announcement." So for the last 9 months, it's just been a lot of chatter, a lot of BS out there. And in the end, they went back to what they were originally presented.
Yeah, and look, I don't think we're going to see, the rich are still going to be rich early, but I do like the parity that it will allow for recruiting in the long run. Because, again, just like this problem and just like Brian Kelly's problem at LSU or fixing an economy, you can't do it overnight. Parity is not something you achieve overnight. It's small decisions made over a long period of time. My thing, Brandon, too, before we get into kind of the nuts and bolts of what went down this weekend on the field, is that you're going to push it to 12. All right. I know you're not going to stop at 12. I would be shocked if by 2035 there's still 12 teams in the playoff. So 12 was the cap to me before you started not watering down the regular season. I think that's a common misconception. It's going to make the end of the regular season even crazier, more important. You'll have less opt-outs because more teams are going to be in it. Maybe we can sneak in if these two things have to happen and us to win. But I do think you may see it start cutting down on regular season games. How we used to play 11, now we play 12 during the regular season with a conference championship. Do you think we are going to head eventually back to an 11-game regular season or possibly even a 10-game regular season or something like that? That's the only thing that worries me, because I still think that college football has the best regular season in sports.
Yeah, I don't think so immediately, and I don't think so within the next few years. In fact, the SEC commissioner was asked about that just about his conference, and for that matter, all of college football, and he said no, that he doesn't see that happening right now and doesn't even having seen it being discussed, that they'll stick with 12 games. Obviously, I think within that framework, you'll see these conferences adjust what their conference scheduling looks like. Do you expand to 9 conference games? Do you shrink down to 8 in some instances? Do you just completely stop allowing FCS teams to be scheduled by your program so you can help strengthen the conference's strength of record, and for that matter, your own team's strength of record? You're going to see some things within the framework be adjusted, but I think they'll stick with 12 games throughout college football for the foreseeable future. I think they've kind of got an idea of what the calendar is going to look like with an expanded playoff. And I know there was some concern, especially from the ACC, and I know Dabo Sweeney brought it up about the length of the season, and Dabo obviously would know because they've been in the playoff more than anybody other than Alabama. But for now, it's going to stick with 12, and I don't think there'll be a major push unless you see, for example, some injuries popping up or some academic issues being a problem. But listen, college football is a business. It's all about the money, and they want to make as much money as possible. So I don't see them shrinking from 12 games to 11 and taking more money out of their pockets.
Yeah. Well, now that you're getting paid to play that, we're not employees or we're not getting any money to play this amount of game argument kind of goes out the window for a decent amount of players. Steamboat asks, do you think the NIL payments will be way more impactful on parity more than an extended playoff? No, because the richest teams are going to have the most NIL. I mean, you'll have some like Texas A&M that has some success, but the rich keep getting richer. Coney, what do you got?
Brandon, I found the timing of this announcement disrespectful. I think it overshadowed opening weekend for a lot of these collegiate athletes. We had the spring to get this handled. We had the summer to get this handled. What really blocked that seemed to be this quote unquote alliance between the Big Ten, the ACC, and the Pac-12. What are you hearing in terms of the committee's decision to announce this and time it up with opening kickoff?
Well, I don't know if there was actually a plan about that, but I do know that it kind of surprised.
That's the problem.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I think it kind of surprised some of the other decision makers that were not necessarily directly involved. The presidents and chancellors are the ones who kind of came together and got this done. I mean, listen, the commissioners were sitting there thinking, all right, we kind of get into this timeline of that maybe a decision we made before next spring. And all of a sudden this happened here within these last few days, last week or so, really. It's interesting. The presidents and chancellors, they didn't quote unquote go act on their own, but the fact that they just said, all right, we're just going to approve what you guys gave us in the first place. And let's move forward. Now the commissioners obviously were, they're representatives of the conference, those presidents. So they let them know, hey, this is what we're doing. Are you okay with it? So there's some people out there going, well, the presidents went against what the ACC and the Pac-12 and Big Ten and all that were kind of going for. They didn't want this 12-team playoff format. It's like, no, they did really all in the long run, and they just had feelings hurt. And then in the end, they just made the decision that they knew they were going to make in May. And the timing of it is a little weird. I don't know if I don't know. I don't think it necessarily overshadowed the games. And I say that just because I've written like 2 stories on it so far, and I can tell you this: the readership for it so much lower than anything I've written about week 1.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good to hear. Well, let's jump into some football then. Let's go to one of the marquee matchups with the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. I thought that Marcus Freeman's debut, he really performed well against the Buckeyes. That high-powered offense that we were supposed to hear out of Columbus, Ohio, really didn't show up, even though they did hold on for a good win there at home. What are your thoughts on Game 1, and should the Buckeyes have any concerns moving forward through the rest of the season?
This is why I love college football, because we all overreact. It's all emotional. So I'm going to overreact here. I think Notre Dame and Ohio State are both still legitimate top 5 teams after that game. Marcus Freeman had that defense ready to go against Ohio State. CJ Stroud, I think, was pushed in a little bit. They were struggling there, obviously, offensively in doing so. But here's the very positive signs for Ohio State in my mind. One, the defense. I think you guys know that. Jim Knowles came in and has completely just revamped everything there. The defensive line for Ohio State looked really good, especially on the interior there. That is a very good sign moving forward. And then Ohio State kind of had to go back to what we kind of have been accustomed to seeing with Ohio State in the past. And they went to the running game, and it looked so good there late in the game. And that's kind of what got them going. I have faith that C.J. Stroud's going to get things going, the receivers are going to get things going, and that offense will be much more explosive. But credit Notre Dame's defense and Marcus Freeman, because that's his bread and butter. And that Notre Dame offense is going to get better as well with a new starting quarterback. They've got both the teams have both the pieces to potentially be in the playoff, depending on how things roll out at the end of the season. But if I'm an Ohio State fan, nothing to worry about. In fact, I would be very happy after that game, because it might actually end up being your toughest game of the entire season, including the game. I think Notre Dame, in the end, that game might end up being tougher than facing Michigan.
Blaine?
I love it. Let's go to the game last night. Little Florida State LSU action. Huge win for Mike Norvell. Do you think Florida State could maybe be a sleeper team in the ACC to maybe come out on top? No more Sam Hartman at Wake. I mean, Jordan Travis probably played the best game I've seen him play at Florida State. Do you think they could sneak up on some people?
Well, two things. I don't know about you guys, but watching that game, I had the volume turned down just so it helps me concentrate and watch the kids' effort and everything. Is it just me, or was Florida State's players just playing their ass off every single snap?
Brandon, I thought the same thing after I was shocked. I was shocked that game at the Superdome. It looked very 2021 LSU. It looked very guys not chasing after the play. Now you had some that were playing their guts out, but Boutte checks out. Neighbors kind of checks out. It's just I don't think Brian Kelly has cut all the cancer out of that LSU locker room, and it just takes time. But I'm with you. Go ahead.
Yeah, Florida State just was getting after it. Jordan Travis, you look near that last half of last season going into this year, he's been building up to this. He's been playing very well. He was incredible last night. Some of the passes he delivered were just amazingly fantastic, especially the one where he got drilled. It was a perfect throw to the corner of the end zone. But Florida State as an ACC contender, I'm still not sold on it. I want to see more consistency. Obviously, in the red zone, they struggled early against LSU. I mean, let's be honest. Florida State should have won that game by 3 touchdowns. For LSU, especially right now, they're just not very good. They, as you said, I don't think they're any better than they were late last season compared to where they are right now, and that's disappointing. For all the off-season talk Brian Kelly was giving, and for that matter, his players, about how they brought in people to help with their mental game and to kind of cut the cancer out, so to speak, and get their confidence going once again and have them face some harsh realities and admit that to themselves just mentally. And then to see them go out there and just seem to be the same exact team, it was kind of insane to me. But credit LSU for bouncing back the way they did in that fourth quarter. It's just, let's see how the team reacts after this now, after their season opening loss, and how if they can stay together. But I'm kind of with you. I was very shocked by the way LSU played in that game. I mean, especially offensively. I was expecting so much more. I kept expecting them to change quarterbacks there in the third quarter. That didn't end up happening. But Florida State played their tails off. If they give that type of effort, I'll give them a chance in any game the remainder of the season. But I need to see them be much more consistent when they have scoring opportunities.
Yeah, I agree. And I kind of say that because NC State really didn't live up to my expectations. Week 1 against East Carolina, it was just, so it basically beat them in Clemson.
I think NC State was the most disappointing performance of the entire Week 1.
I agree.
Of any team in the country. Very disappointing.
I agree. Let's go to the game tonight. Little Clemson versus Georgia Tech. Last time I looked, I believe it was a 23.5-point spread. They're not expecting this one to be close. But I want to look at this Clemson offense, especially this quarterback room. Do you think DJ kind of takes some steps up this year, or do you think we're going to see Cade Klubnik?
I think DJ's going to look better. And despite Dabo Swinney saying all the right things about DJ and believing in DJ Uiagalelei, I think that there will be a short leash. I think they'll give him a couple of weeks, and if it's just not quite there, they'll yank him and they'll put Cade Klubnik in there. I mean, Cade Klubnik is a superstar, and you see the recruiting rankings, you see the film, and if DJ's just not getting it done, they'll have to make a change. DJ knows that, and Dabo has said, hey, he's got to go out there and show it now. So you give as much confidence to DJ as you can. You give him an opportunity, but I think he's got, in my eyes, he's got like 2 games. And tonight, listen, I'm here for the game. I know it's Georgia Tech. There's only going to be like 40,000 people in the stands because they cap tickets. It's interesting. I don't think Georgia Tech wanted Clemson fans to just inundate the place. But if this is the biggest game of DJ's life, to be quite honest, because this is going to show so much about his future and what it's going to look like. And if he comes out and struggles against Georgia Tech, that might be the end of it. But I don't expect that. I think he's going to perform well. I do wonder, though, about beyond week 2, for example, because I think that a change is very, very, very possible, and it's probably coming.
Yeah, and I know, Brandon, you're going to be at the game. I'm so interested to see your thoughts on the Clemson defense, just seeing them and watching them run around because they have a chance. I watched Alabama, and that's one of the most physical teams I've ever seen. Georgia looks like they haven't missed a beat. We'll continue to see how that goes. But Clemson on defense is no slouch either. You could legitimately have 3 defenses that are absolutely elite this year on the next level. My last question for you, I appreciate you getting up on a Labor Day. We were going to bring you a show on a Labor Day. We're going to labor this thing, grind it out like Brandon Marcello's doing. outside of Alabama.
It's football. It's football.
It's football, man.
Football
That's exactly right. Look, it's like they say, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And I happen to love it almost obsessively. Well, actually, it is obsessively. Just ask Reed. But when you look at outside of Alabama and Georgia, I let off the show with this. I know Ohio State looks good off the hoof. They've got guys that we know are athletic and can compete. But Brandon, and I know it's early. Okay, it's super, super early, and it's not over till the fat lady sings or the skinny lady starts talking. But is there any team outside of Bama and Georgia right now that you look at and say, man, these guys have a shot? Knowing Clemson hasn't played yet, all right, so we'll keep that on the periphery. Is there any team you look at and you say, you know what? I feel like these guys could give Bama or Georgia a run, because I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it right now.
I think Ohio State still potentially could. I think their offense will come around and they'll get it going, and the defense has improved. And that's all you wanted from Ohio State, is the defense to improve. Mm-hmm. And we know what that offense can do with C.J. Stroud. So I think Ohio State is kind of starting to get built to that spot. I do listen. I said that maybe this Georgia team is even better than the one last year, just because offensively I think they could be more explosive. And Stetson Bennett, a quarterback, is so much more confident. I mean, I don't think you can discount the idea that he practiced and worked out with his teammates all summer, knowing that he was going to start the season opener for the first time in his life. Mm-hmm. And he talked about that after the game. That helped him so much. And I think that Georgia defensively, not as deep, obviously, and that's going to hurt them at some point. But they're just stacked and loaded. And this Georgia team, to me, overall, I think might not be playing any tight games this year in the regular season. Yeah. I don't necessarily see it. I don't think they'll really be tested until they get the SEC championship game. And Ohio State, I mentioned it earlier. I think Notre Dame might end up proving to be their toughest game of the regular season for them. And you look at that schedule, I kind of see it. And Bama right now, I want to see them play a team, worth a darn, because Utah State's terrible this year, as you guys know. But yeah, Bama is stacked. Bama's got the most talented roster. I think they've got potentially the best defense they've had there in some time. I mean, this idea that they've been top 15, top 10 in defense, but not quite what we were accustomed to seeing top 3, top 5. I think they're going to get back to that point. Couple that with that offense now. I said this before, and I probably said it to you guys. I think this Alabama team has the chance to be even better than the one 2 years ago. And the one 2 years ago, I thought, yes. And the one 2 years ago, I thought it's the best in modern college football history.
Yeah. Well, Brandon, I think too, before, like, balance, to me, when I'm picking the greatest team of all time, it is the most balanced team with the most talent. Like your Georgia take, I don't think is out there at all. Last year they had an elite defense. The offense was good. Was it elite? No, but it was good enough for what they had on defense. This year, they're probably more balanced across the board from a talent standpoint and can beat you in more ways. To me, that makes you a more dangerous team. Alabama, a team 2 years ago, offensively, we know, unbelievably elite. The defense was good, but this team could be even more balanced. I'm 100% with you. I would much rather play a team that one side of the ball is super elite and the other side is good than two sides of the ball that are elite or bordering on super elite. That's what should keep you up at night. But Brandon, always love you coming on, man. Tell everybody where they can find your work. I know you're on site today working, and we always appreciate you coming on Crane and Company.
Yeah, check me out on Twitter at @bmarcello, all the socials at Brandon Marcello as well, and 247sports.com.
Definitely. Well, Brandon, I appreciate it, man. Stay safe out there.
All right, see you guys.
Appreciate it.
One of our favorites, Brandon Marcello, a guy we really like, always does a good job. Got a little bit of everything there. So I don't know what else you guys want. Go ahead and throw those questions in the Booster Club. I see it's pretty hot this morning on a Labor Day. Y'all are up here with us. Make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe. Tell one friend today about Crane and Company. Just tell one friend and then tell that friend to tell a friend.
Guys,
and we'll just start like Hands Across America today or something.
That Bama team was so good 2 years ago.
They were so
good.
Let me ask you this though. That we saw Bama in the offense in game one. I guess Utah State. We still got more to see. From the defense. Who would you say is a better defense right now? This year from Alabama or the one from 2 years ago? Which one would you take?
I would say this defense for Bama is a little bit better, but I would say the offense from 2 years ago is a lot better than the offense.
I don't know. I don't know what else you really. Now the offensive line's got to continue to improve. We know how good that offensive line was 2 years ago.
Receivers
but
better.
With Jahmyr Gibbs, I mean, look, Trayshawn Holden's, no joke. They got some cats running around there. Bama, don't forget. Cam
who was on the team 2 years ago?
Cam
Bama?
Latu. Hold on, Cam Latu was hurt. Or is hurt right now. He's a big piece of that Bama tight end room as well that we're going to see down the stretch. So I do think Chicago Sports Network asks, do you think Notre Dame makes the playoffs? I do not. I think it is Bama, Georgia, Ohio State, and Clemson. But speaking of Clemson, y'all want to go ahead and get our bets out here today? You want to go and get it out?
Let's do it.
I hate betting this game.
Yeah. Well, how about this? I take
hate
LSU. I take LSU minus 2.5 and the over of 50. They scored the touchdown with no seconds left to make it 24-23. So kick the extra point. 24 plus 24 is 48. Nobody's going to get a safety to win the game. The over is going to hit. But no, LSU's special teams, which basically was, the only way I can describe it is disgusting. As a guy
Jake, you're a special teams guy.
Yeah, I was a special teams coordinator at Division I level. Okay, last night, number one, you drop one punt, fumble it, and they get it. I'm replacing you. Like that, we're gonna put some dude in there who's from Picayune, Mississippi, or Chicory, Louisiana, that's got the hands of an artist that can just. I don't care about returning the ball now. Now we just have to catch it. Okay, but the blocking up front was so the first field goal that was blocked, somebody blocked out and somebody blocked down. Yeah. Nobody touched number 5. That's not how that works. And it's field goal is so easy to teach. Not fun. It's not a fun position to play. You've got to ride the lightning. It is not fun to step down and have two guys literally bowl you over. But guess what? That's fine, because when they bowl you over and they go down, they don't block the kick. But you sure as hell don't have one guy block out and one guy block in, because you create what? An open gap that he just ran through. And then on the second one, y'all just got big boyed. Y'all just got straight up big boyed. Y'all didn't get low. You didn't get low at the time you needed the most. That's why I'm just telling you, and that's the special teams guy in me. I had a feeling right after LSU scored a touchdown, because everybody's going nuts. Ryan Kelly's turning purple as his shirt over there, and like you have to make the extra point. And after having that ball, I could see it in Ramos's eyes. But here's my question, guys, and I'll never understand this: why not one step the kick? You've had one blocked. Yeah. It's an extra point. One step the kick. Don't take your normal distance. It's something you work on all the time. We always had that in the arsenal. We could one step it if we were worried about it on a short field goal or an extra point, and they didn't do it. It just goes back to organization, and I could just feel it, man. I could feel it down deep inside.
Should have went for 2.
No, you shouldn't have gone for 2.
Yes, you should have.
No,
you should have went for 2.
It's a de facto home game.
You've been losing. You've been losing the whole game, the entire game. You've been outplayed for 4 quarters. You drive down.
You the PAT there, Blaine. I think
Florida State gave you a gift from the gods on the 2-yard line, and you drive down and score. All the momentum's on your side. You have a chance to seal your fate, Brian Kelly. To seal your fate, to go for 2 and win the game. You already have one block.
You're on the road, or if you're Louisiana Tech, and you don't have the same athletes, and you shouldn't even be in that game, you go for 2.
You know what
you've been losing the whole game. You already have one block. Win the game.
You know what Mike Norvell should have done? Mike Norvell just should have kicked the field goal earlier in the game when you're up 7 to make it a 2-score game. Now LSU scores in 1 second. Great, congrats. You lost by 3.
What was it? Herm Edwards. What did Herm Edwards say? It. You play to win the game. Win the game, Brian Kelly. It's in your hands.
Yeah, that's not what that means. That's not what that means. Like, you can play to win the game.
Thank you, Captain Obvious. Appreciate it, buddy. Awesome. Thanks. You're the best. You're the best. Go win the game, Brian Kelly. Ed O to win for 2.
Yeah, well, Edo, Edo was watching that game last night with a drink in his hand, just laughing his ass off probably. But Travis Elrod asks, who do you think has the best chance to get into the college football playoff outside of the 4 teams that you listed? I mean, now that Utah lost, I mean, you look on the periphery. I mean, look to the Big Ten, Michigan. I mean, you have to say probably Michigan, right?
I go with the boys.
Yeah.
Or
Oklahoma.
Somewhere around there. Oklahoma, I thought, I was very interested in, listen, I know UTEP, okay, isn't great. I think what Dana Dimmel's done there is, but he's done a pretty good job with the resources that he has and being where he is. Watching Oklahoma, I was interested to see the pace that Brent Venables and then we're going to play at. Being a defensive head coach, how fast was he going to let Jeff Lebby go? They went pretty fast. I thought Dylan Gabriel, after being out for a long time, remember, broke his collarbone early in the 2021 season, thought he looked pretty fresh. Didn't run it a ton. And I want to make sure, too, we talked a lot about Cincy and Arkansas yesterday. Make sure you go check out the recap, the Sunday recap from yesterday. But I do got to give my guy KJ Jefferson some love, even though Arkansas has got to protect him. They've got to protect him during the regular season or he's not going to make it. You're going to have happen what happened last year. He's going to get beat up. He was already grabbing at his leg. He's a big guy, all right? But there are other big guys that play, and even little guys can give you shots that over time, it's just like a car. I mean, car takes a lot of hits. You got a lot of miles on the car. Eventually, something's going to break. Something's going to wear down, let alone a human being. But I do want to give a shout out because KJ Jefferson's tough, man, in the good way. Not like, oh, his best attribute is that he's tough. No, his best attribute is that he's good at playing quarterback. He just happens to be tough.
Is that what the kids say? He's got that dog in him.
You got that dog. The X-rays are back. Guys. You got that dog.
He's tough, Cone.
He's tough, man.
He's super tough, man.
Super tough. All right. Well, bets tonight. Here's what I got. Give me Clemson minus 20.5 because I don't think Georgia Tech's going to score over 9.5 points. That's going off, I believe, at minus 130. I need to double check that. Then give me the under for the game at 52.5. These are both off DraftKings. Go to DraftKings. Use the promo code BOOSTER, and if you're new, a $5 bet gets you $200 free in betting. That I can't, like, the only way I could get you more is if we went and just robbed the headquarters.
Did you say $200?
$200 American human dollars. People.
Wow.
Hey, you want it? Let's see what picks are going to miss tonight. Clemson, Georgia Tech under 52.5 at minus 135. And then I'm just going to throw in a Dodgers Giants Nerfy here at minus 130 just to see if we can maybe get some, momentum going again.
A little, okay, going back to the diamond. Look, I like where I'm at. Was 4-2 first weekend of college football, 3-3 split yesterday. 3-0 in dog bets and 1-0 in sharps. I went ahead and jumped on Alabama minus 18.5 at Texas. Literally 10 minutes after I did that, it shot up to 19.5. I think it's going to be a bloodbath, like Tom Green hanging the rat in front of the snake from Road Trip. Bloodbath.
All right, man. Cool story. Anyways, my bets for today. Give me Clemson minus 13.5 in the first half.
Ooh, BetBud's baby cone.
Okay, love that BC. Love that BC. I believe that's going off at minus 110. I believe I have to go back and look. And then I'm taking Clemson minus 18.5, going off at minus 182. Georgia Tech is not a good football team, guys. Went 1-1 yesterday. That's fine. I had LSU minus 0.5 point in the under at 55.
That's why you wanted him to go for
almost snuck one out. Well, not really.
That was a selfish decision by you. So
Smart.
You're wrong.
Scared money doesn't make money. Come on, BK. I thought you'd be the guy to go for 2 right there. To be honest, I really thought he'd be that guy.
Baby Cone has Clemson minus 13.5. First half, Blaine, with you, and then
Love it.
Yankees money line. I guess he's just teaming up with your boys.
Let's go,
Ace.
Ace.
On this. I blame you as the father, David. I need you
Let's
to
go,
sit down and
Ace.
have a turn
Look,
talking.
you know
to
what?
him.
I got broad shoulders. I can take that blame.
Look, it's good to look and see Travis Elrod say
fault.
the chat is supporting Blaine again.
The chat is not.
Jake, you can see it. They should have went for 2. They should have went for 2, Travis. I know.
Don't turn the chat against me. All right.
I know, Travis. It's like
Travis
they
says,
should have went for
here's
2.
my theory. Cone attaches bets to toys, and whichever one Baby Cone grabs is his bet. Not a bad theory.
I
It's
love
one
it. It probably works.
as good as anything. Somebody did. There was a question earlier in the chat. While we got a little bit of time here, I want to make sure and hit. Now that I can actually see the chat, it's wild that we're going remote today. Typically, we're gonna be going live from our studio again tomorrow. I can't find it. I believe it was something about. Oh, here we go. Who do you think? Or excuse me. Do you think Bo Nix will ultimately regret transferring to Oregon after the carnage that ensued versus Georgia? Wilson Strickland asked that. Well, look, we got to see how Auburn does after watching Auburn's offensive line I don't think it's going to be any better against Georgia. I think this is just Bo Nix's life. It's like that show on ABC, like This Is Us with Mandy Moore. Like, this is Bo Nix.
Well,
you play Georgia, you get trashed. It looked like vintage Bo Nix, I will say.
For sure.
I will say it was very interesting, and it was a weird feeling when they put the graphic up there and you saw Bo Nix's smiling face under Oregon. And after that second pick was thrown, not going to lie, didn't hurt my feelings that much. I'm just, again, kind of is what it is.
Well, now
play a game, but let's be honest, there it is.
Well, now, like, you think about it, like, he's about to play a Pac-12 schedule. Okay, so he's about to be feeling a lot better about a lot of things other than just playing Georgia. Because if he was still at Auburn, yeah, you'd play Georgia and like, well, here's Arkansas. Here's Mississippi State. But now it's, here's the team, the entire conference that doesn't play defense. So just have fun. Don't be terrible.
Manny C asks, hashtag Ask Cranico, who is this year's Arkansas, a team that comes out of nowhere? Could you say Fresno State comes out of nowhere with what they did last year? Maybe a little bit. Syracuse, obviously looking good early after absolutely destroying Louisville.
But this Florida State team.
Florida State, that's another good one. Now, look, we got to see if Jordan Travis can recreate this. All right, I'm sorry for one game. You got hot in the dome. All right, so did Pauly Shore in Biodome. I got to see if you can do it 2 years in a row. Whoa, that was an old reference. That may have been one
great
of the
movie.
Really great movie. But God, looking out, I think Washington too, man. I'm telling you guys right now. Like I watched Penix play. He looked good. Washington looked a whole lot better than what they did last year. DeBoer coming over from Fresno State. I know Hayner stayed there at Fresno, but I'm telling you guys, Washington's going 7-2 in the Pac-12. Especially after watching Oregon, I feel so much better about me having Washington State going 7-2 in that conference. The two picks that I'm kind of a little worried about, a little nervy, Mississippi State look good. Like they look good.
Will's nice, man.
Will is nice. We'll see. We'll see, Coney, but I had Mississippi State going 2-6 in the conference. Still feel really good about the South Carolina pick. They play Arkansas this week. We're going to be breaking that down from an absolute fundamental standpoint as it goes on. But the chat, man, great today. Great job.
Also, hey, tell the people, big announcement coming tomorrow as it relates to fantasy football. They're not going to want to miss the announcement tomorrow.
Yeah, it's basically the biggest thing that ever happened to fantasy football, and I'm not kidding. I will say I'm very happy with where a certain person is going to be picking in a certain thing that we will be announcing tomorrow. And you thought it got awfully.
You're happy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I am happy. I'm actually super happy. And I would like to give a shout out to the world according to Rusty, who said in the weekend winner was Jake because of the Pauly Shore reference. You could not be more right. But guys, parting thoughts.
Brian Kelly, you really took the easy way out at the end of that game. You had a chance to seal your fate, Brian, to seal your name in stone in Baton Rouge, and you took the easy way out. That's my parting thoughts.
Cone, who's going to be the most disappointing team in college football this year? Could it be LSU? Could it be Louisville? We probably don't know yet because, again, we're going to see somebody's going to continue to fall apart, but it's going to be somebody on a high level that I think we're going to be very disappointed in this year.
Yeah, I think after last night, I think that could be that could be LSU, not just because they lost the football game, just because the way they lost it. I mean, they didn't look engaged, didn't look like they wanted to be there. And I think on the other side of that, when you look at Florida and Florida State after what we saw last night, but especially the Gators, I think that's a team right there to really watch out for. Florida's going to beat some people that they're not supposed to.
Yeah, Anthony Richardson, 100%.
Miami dropped 80, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, look, I'm telling you, I got Miami going 8-1 and playing Clemson in the ACC championship. Jimbo Eagle has Derrick Henry, Jonathan Taylor, and Jamar Chase on his fantasy squad. As how his chances are looking, pretty good. What is there? 2 teams?
And would you draft by yourself?
Yeah, are you playing yourself? That's an unbelievable job. But you guys have a great Labor Day. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Going to be back in the studio tomorrow. Enjoy some more college football tonight. We got NFL this week as well, and going into a big-time week 2. So we're going to have it covered like Augustus Gloop at a Pop-Tart factory. So make sure you guys check it out. And like the chances of Brian Kelly getting off to a hot start, we're going. Gone.